Hello, everyone. This is Carolyn reading to you from the Cape Cod Times on Wednesday, May 29th. As always, we'll start today with the local weather. Today's going to be a beautiful day with some times of sun and clouds. Highs will be 73 degrees. Tonight will be partly cloudy with a couple of showers, lows 56 degrees. The sun rose this morning at 5:11 a.m. and will set tonight at 8:07 p.m. Tomorrow, Thursday, May 30th, we'll see some periods of sun, but there will also be some showers around. It will be cooler with highs of 64 degrees and lows of 53 degrees. Friday, we'll see another day with times of clouds and sun, highs 67 degrees and lows 52 degrees. Saturday will be a mostly sunny day. Highs will be 69 degrees and lows 55 degrees. And finally, on Sunday, it will be another pleasant day with some sun around. Highs 71 degrees and lows 59 degrees. And next, continuing with local news, we'll go to the lottery. The numbers for the numbers game yesterday, Tuesday, May 28th, at the midday drawing were the numbers for the midday drawing were 4, 5, 1, 7. Once again, that is 4, 5, 1, 7. The numbers for yesterday's evening drawing were 6, 6, 1, 2. Once again, that's 6, 6, 1, 2. The mass cash numbers for yesterday, Tuesday, May 28th, were 11, 18, 20, 28, 34. Mega Millions for yesterday, Tuesday, May 28th, were 12, 18, 48, 57, 62 with a bonus ball of 4. And the Lucky for Life numbers for yesterday, Tuesday, May 28th. Those numbers were 9, 18, 21, 37, 46 with a lucky ball of 1. If you played any of those games, we wish you the best of luck. And next, we'll go to the front page local news stories in today's Cape Cod Times. The first story is entitled, Covell Beach Provides Signs Detailing Underground Cables, by Heather McCarran, Cape Cod Times, USA Today Network. With a GQEMF 390 electromagnetic field meter in hand, resident Tom Cambareri paced a section of Covell Beach on Wednesday morning, announcing readings as he went. The numbers he called out rose, crested, and fell like the waves coming to shore nearby, indicators of his passage over the 2 transmission lines carrying power from the Vineyard Wind 1 wind farm buried under the beach. The signal is a lot weaker on the beach, which is a good thing, he said, because that's where people will spend a lot of time as summer gets underway. Cambereri has been taking informal measurements of electromagnetic fields created by the cables for a few months, ever since Avangrid began sending power through the cables when the first turbines began churning in the company's lease area south of the vineyard. At last count, 9 of the 62 planned turbines were in operation. He's been driven by curiosity and concern about safety and public health, and wanting people who spend time at the beach to know the Vineyard Wind transmission cables make landfall there. Now, as a result of his effort and just in time for Memorial Day, the town has posted 2 signs at the beach providing information about the wind project and its presence under the beach. They were installed by Barnstable DPW workers on Friday near the comfort station and over the location where the buried cables transition from the beach and the parking lot. The town has taken my suggestion to heart, said Cambereri, who worked with town administration on the Covell Beach sign project for several weeks. Initially, the town considered having Avangrid undertake the sign project. The town council president, Felicia Penn, said town officials decided to do it instead after disagreeing with the focus of the company's proposals for the signs. Vineyard Wind had submitted copy, but it was rejected by the town, as it read like an advertisement for Avangrid, Penn said. More formal EMF monitoring is expected at Covell Beach eventually. Barnstable Director of Communications, Lynn Boyant, said the town is continuing discussions with the company regarding regular communication on safe and compliant operation of their system. The details of the monitoring are still being worked out, and coordination with the Massachusetts Department of Public Utilities and Energy Facilities Siting Board is necessary, she said. The town will eventually add a QR code to the signs, she said, that will link those interested in accessing additional information to a town-controlled website. The website will have a site plan illustrating the location of buried cables from the water's edge through the parking lot to Craigville Beach Road, and any data compiled by Vineyard Wind, the town, the state, and the town relative to EMF, and information from the state verifying the safety and compliance of the project. It is as yet unknown how frequently readings would be taken. Cambereri would like to see readings taken daily, perhaps by beach personnel, and posted daily on a chalkboard at the beach, just as water temperature readings are often posted at some beaches. I believe every time a new turbine is connected, new readings should take place, at the very least, Penn said. Informal EMF readings below standards. All of Cambereri's readings so far have been far below the current international standard for human exposure limit to magnetic field levels, 2,000 milligauss, set by the International Commission on non-ionizing radiation protection in 2010. They've also fallen well below the EMFs produced by most appliances people are around every day in their homes and offices. The readings are lowest on the beach itself, he said, where the cables are buried the deepest. They rise closer to the surface under the parking lot en route to the roads that convey the power to the substation at Independence Park. According to Vineyard Wind, the two export cables from its wind farm are roughly 9 feet below Covell Beach at the edge of the parking lot and approximately 30 feet deep at the waterline. Barnstable resident John Kasakian, Massachusetts Institute of Technology Professor Emeritus of Electrical Engineering, said the magnetic field is directly proportional to the current in the lines. So, if the 9 turbines are operating at maximum load or current, then all 52 turbines operating at maximum load would produce a magnetic field about 6 times higher, he said. He would expect the field, quote, to be unconcerning even with all turbines operating at maximum loading, end quote. Baseline EMF readings for Vineyard Wind cables. Vineyard Wind spokesman Craig Gilvarg said a contractor hired by Avangrid on Thursday performed baseline magnetic field readings while the wind farm and all components were de-energized with town officials present. The readings were performed to take baseline data accounting for the Earth's natural magnetic field. Future readings will be performed when the electrical equipment is in operation to assess the levels of magnetic field associated with the cables, he said. Those readings will be reported to the town and made available to the public. According to Poyant, on-site testing to verify safety and compliance will also take place next week. And it is the town's understanding that the Massachusetts Department of Public Health will be involved relative to verifying the accuracy of the ongoing monitoring. The town has also retained a third-party independent expert to verify readings and data if and when needed, she said. And there are two pictures that go along with today's front page story. The first picture is of 2 people putting up a sign on the beach, and the caption reads, Barnstable DPW workers David Winnekanen and Justin Zajac install an informational sign about the Vineyard Wind project that makes landfall at Covell Beach in Centerville ahead of the Memorial Day weekend. And the second picture is of a person using an instrument at the beach, and the caption says, Tom Cambereri uses a device that measures electromagnetic fields on May 22nd, taking a reading along a section of Covell Beach in Centerville to locate the 2 buried electric cables. The next front page story on today's issue of the Cape Cod Times is entitled, Diocese of Fall River Bishop Emeritus dies. He served 2 Cape parishes. By Dan Medeiros, Cape Cod Times, USA Today Network. The Diocese of Fall River has announced the death of the Most Reverend George W. Coleman, who served as the 7th Bishop of Fall River from July 2003 to September 2014. Bishop Emeritus Coleman died May 24th at Charlton Memorial Hospital in Fall River, where earlier last week he had undergone surgery. He was 85 years old and had been in declining health. In announcing his death, Bishop Edgar M. Dacuna, who succeeded Coleman, said, "While we mourn his passing and will miss him dearly, we are also consoled by the promise of the resurrection and the certainty that he, a good and faithful servant of the Church, will be rewarded for all the good he has done in this life and will be our new intercessor in heaven." Dacuna is asking that all join him in prayer for the eternal repose of his, quote, beautiful soul and for the consolation of his family, friends, clergy, and faithful of the Diocese of Fall River, end quote. Nearly 6 decades of service to the Catholic Church. In December of this year, Coleman would have observed the 60th anniversary of his ordination to the priesthood. He was recognized for this significant milestone at the Diocesan Chrism Mass in St. Mary's Cathedral in Fall River this year during Holy Week. It was in that same cathedral where he was ordained a bishop and installed as the leader of the Diocese of Fall River on July 22, 2003. His appointment came as he was serving as administrator of the Diocese of Fall River following the transfer of then-Bishop Sean P. O'Malley to the Diocese of Palm Beach in Florida in the fall of 2002. It began an 11-year tenure of dedicated, faithful, humble, and competent ministry as he worked to fulfill the many responsibilities of being bishop. He's probably one of the most quiet, kind, and reverent priests I've ever met in my life. A very, very holy man, said local businessman Carl Salwako, who is active in the Catholic community and assisted with Coleman's ordination to the position of bishop. An example of a great priest. Salwako knew Coleman from his years as parish priest at St. Patrick's in Fall River. A kind and gentle man liked by parishioners. Salwako said when O'Malley was transferred, Salwako's partner Sue Dorr told Coleman confidently, "You're going to be the next bishop." With a mild expression, Salwako said, Coleman asked, "Do you know something I don't know yet?" Weeks later, after his installation as bishop, Salwako said, Coleman sought out Dorr and asked for a photo with, quote, "the person who knew I was going to be bishop before I knew." He was probably one of the most approachable bishops we've had in decades, Salwako said. He was so Christ-like. He accepted everyone. He really didn't let things bother him. If he did, he never showed it, always even-tempered. Coleman's history as spiritual leader. Coleman oversaw a diocese in transition, as the church itself went through significant upheaval. Locally, declining attendance and a shortage of priests led to the closure of churches. Internationally, the death of Pope John Paul II, who guided the church for over a quarter century, was followed by the election of a more conservative Pope Benedict XVI. Benedict took the rare step of resigning in 2013. Its next spiritual leader would be the much more liberal Pope Francis. Even as the church faced challenges, it carried on. The Reverend David Destin, who was ordained by Coleman in 2009, remembered the bishop as a kind man. Of course, death comes for everybody, but somehow it's still a surprise when it happens. With your brother priests, it's one thing, but when it's the bishop, it feels different, Destin said, noting their status as successors to the apostles. A native of the diocese, Coleman was born in Fall River on February 1st, 1939, the son of the late George W. and Beatrice K. Shea Coleman, and raised in Somerset, along with one sister, Eileen. He graduated from Monsignor James Coyle High School in Taunton in 1957 and attended Holy Cross College in Worcester. He prepared for the priesthood at St. John's Seminary in Brighton and at the North American College in Rome, where he also earned a graduate degree in sacred theology from the Gregorian University. He was ordained a priest in St. Peter's Basilica in Vatican City on December 16, 1964. Coleman's first assignment was as curate or associate pastor at St. Kilian's Parish, New Bedford, where he served from 1965 to 1967. He was then assigned to minister in the same capacity at the former St. Louis Parish, Fall River, until 1972, and from there to Our Lady of Victory Parish, Centerville, until 1977. He was then appointed to direct the Diocesan Department of Education, a post he held for 8 years, overseeing Catholic schools, parish religious education, and campus ministry programs in the diocese. In 1982, he also became pastor of St. Patrick's Parish in Fall River. He left both posts in 1985 to become pastor of Corpus Christi Parish in Sandwich, where he served until 1994. From 1990 to 1994, he was Dean of the Cape and Islands Deanery. He was there for a long time, and parishioners really, really liked him, said Destin of Corpus Christi Parish. I was assigned there as a seminarian for a summer. He had been gone for ages, but they still talked about him. They liked him a lot. In August 1994, O'Malley reorganized the administration of the Fall River Diocese and appointed Coleman to the position of Vicar General and first moderator of the Curia. Later that same year, he was named by Pope John Paul II to the rank of Prelate of Honor with the title of Reverend Monsignor. On October 22, 2002, he was elected to serve as administrator of the diocese by his peers on the College of Consultors following O'Malley's transfer. Saweko said as a bishop, Coleman always tried to keep everything stable and riding on rails. He never wanted to upset the apple cart. His administration was one of peace and kindness. Coleman's career after retirement. He retired at the age of 75, as required, and was succeeded by Dacuna on September 24, 2014. In retirement, while able, Coleman continued to serve the diocese, often assisting with parish masses. For a time, Coleman lived in retirement on Cape Cod. While leading a retreat on the Cape, Destin said, on a whim, he phoned up the Bishop Emeritus and asked if he wanted to assist with a penance service, hearing confessions. Not usually the sort of thing that the bishop often does, because that's more of a parish priest job, Destin said. He said, absolutely. When Destin picked him up to drive him to the service, the older, much more experienced Bishop Emeritus and the young priest bonded over their Fall River roots. He asked, "Do they still publish Lynn Independent?" Destin said, referring to a former French-language newspaper once published in Fall River. I stopped there in the middle of the street. It was January on Cape Cod, so you could do that. And I said, "Are you telling me that there was a French version of Au Journal?" I said. "Excellency, I don't think that's been published since I've been alive." After the service, Destin and other members of the retreat invited Coleman out for dinner. "But," said Coleman, quiet and modest, "it's almost past my bedtime. Besides, you are all so young, and I'm old." Destin said he cherished that time he spent working with Coleman side by side as two servants of God. He's the bishop. He's the boss. He's in charge of your life. So there's a little bit of a distance there, Destin said. But on this occasion, he said, there wasn't that bishop and priest dynamic. It was more collegial. Serving Christ was, for Coleman, not just his mission, but his love. At a Mass of Thanksgiving celebrated in August 2014, a few weeks before his retirement, Coleman recalled in his homily that shortly after becoming bishop, he received a letter from a third grader who expressed his hope that the new job would be, quote, fun, unquote. Coleman said, "It has been fun, only surpassed by the ever-deepening joy of being Christ's instrument in the Diocese of Fall River. A wake for Coleman will take place on Thursday, May 30th from 3 to 8 p.m., with a vigil service at 7 p.m. at the Cathedral of St. Mary of the Assumption, 327 2nd Street, Fall River. A Mass of Christian burial will follow on Friday, May 31st at 11 a.m., also at St. Mary's Cathedral. And now, continuing with our local news, we will go to the obituaries. Frank E. Green, Centerville. Frank E. Green, age 85, died peacefully May 20th, 2024, at the Pavilion Rehabilitation and Nursing Center in Hyannis. He had been a resident of Centerville for many years. At Frank's request, there will be no visitation. A funeral mass will be held at Our Lady of Victory on Thursday, May 30th, 11 a.m., followed by a reception at the parish hall. In lieu of flowers, donations in Frank's memory may be made to St. Vincent de Paul Society, Our Lady of Victory, 230 South Main Street, Centerville, Massachusetts, 02632. Services entrusted to Connolly Funeral and Cremation Service, 138 Belmont Street, Brockton, Massachusetts. For complete obituary, please visit connollyfuneralhome.com. Antoinette or Nettie Johnson, South Dennis. Antoinette Nettie Johnson Guarino, age 85, of South Dennis, passed away peacefully on Mother's Day, May 12, 2024, surrounded by her family. She worked in the restaurant industry for many years. She enjoyed her home tremendously, gardening and decorating, especially for Christmas. She loved to read, bake, and cook, notably her fabulous apple pies and traditional lasagna. She enjoyed quality time with family, camping, boating, and treasure hunting at yard sales. Services will be private. Mary Therese Beebe, Baton Rouge. Mary Therese, or Terry Beebe, age 87, of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, died Thursday, October 19th, 2023. She was preceded in death by her loyal and loving husband of 42 years, Raymond Charles Beebe. Terry was a resident of Harwichport, Massachusetts, for almost 30 years, formerly living in Boston, New Orleans, and Slidell, Louisiana. Terry and Ray were both retirees of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. A funeral mass will be held at Holy Name Church in West Roxbury on Wednesday, June 5th at 11 a.m., followed by interment at St. Joseph's Cemetery in West Roxbury. And next we'll go to our local stories on the Cape and Islands page of today's Cape Cod Times. The first story is entitled, Want Property on Cape? you can now buy with new Monopoly Cape Cod edition. By Denise Coffey, Cape Cod Times, USA Today Network. The board game Monopoly now has a Cape Cod version with many familiar sights: Sagamore Bridge, Cape Flyer train service, and Pilgrim Monument. Even the banker in the game is local. Every Monopoly game needs a bank, and we were honored to be asked, said Cape Cod 5 Chief Marketing Officer Stephanie Dennehy on Thursday. Businesses and nonprofits gathered at the Chatham Bars Inn for the reveal of the Cape Cod version of Hasbro's famous game. Even Mr. Monopoly, with his black suit and oversized head, was present for the launch of the board game that's been a year in the making. We couldn't be more thrilled to be a part of such an iconic game, said Cape Air's marketing manager Mary Stanley, waiting for the reveal. When visitors come from Illinois, California, or Florida to the Cape, they'll be able to take a board game home as a memory, she said. Does Hasbro still own Monopoly? Hasbro is a toy and game company founded in 1923. Doctor and nurse kits were its first toy. The company's Potato Head game was the first toy advertised on television, according to Hasbro. Buy, sell, dream, and scheme the way to riches with the Monopoly board game, the company says on its website. The board game is for ages 8 and older. How did Monopoly come to be on Cape Cod? The game is the result of a licensee/licensor partnership between Hasbro and Top Trumps USA. Top Trumps game manager Tim Barney emceed the event. Those selected for places on the board were vetted after a public nomination process and negotiations with Top Trumps. Barney said the nominees had to have longevity and credibility in the community and be invested in community engagement. Half a dozen participants who were asked declined to share the price they paid to be on the game board. They had to interact on a public and personal level, be involved with nonprofits or great causes, Barney said. If we highlight them, the causes will be highlighted and benefit the community. The 16 chance cards and 16 community chest cards each tell a story, whether about a business, a place on the Cape, or a nonprofit in the community. What Cape Cod companies are on the board? Cape Cod 5 has several squares on the board, and their logo covers the play money. Cape Cod Healthcare, Cape Cod Melody Tent, Heritage Museum and Gardens, Captain Baker's Donut Shop, Brewster Whitecaps baseball team, and the Cape Cod National Seashore are all represented. Provincetown claims the highest value property on the board. A picture of the Pilgrim Monument can be bought for $400. Race Point Lighthouse costs $350. At the lower end are the Bourne, Cape Cod Canal Railroad, and Sagamore Bridges for $60 each. Ferries, the Cape Flyer train service, and Route 6A join Cape Air as replacements for the railroad spaces. Each cost $200 to purchase. A unique twist to Monopoly. Open Cape took the Waterworks location, according to Vice President of Business Operations Jennifer Brann. Born and raised on the Cape, Brann said the Internet has become a necessity, even though many people come to the area to unplug. It's kind of a unique twist about Monopoly, she said. As a nonprofit, that's what we talk about all the time: choice and competition. Connectivity is not what it needs to be for a sustainable future. The games will be available at Love Live Local, other Cape vendors, and through the Top Trumps USA website. It costs $44.99. Having it sold through local retailers was intentional, according to Amanda Converse, co-founder and executive director of Love Live Local, a nonprofit that seeks to promote small, independent businesses. They had the community in mind, she said, of Top Trumps USA. Now we're etched in the game. Our next local story on the Cape and Islands page of today's Cape Cod Times is entitled Dennis Planning Board Appeals Town, County Decisions on Family Shelter by Zain Razak, Cape Cod Times, USA Today Network. The Dennis Planning Board flexed its muscle during a Monday public hearing when it pushed against a nonprofit's plans to turn the former South Dennis healthcare facility into a transitional shelter for homeless families. Housing Assistance Corporation, a nonprofit based in Hyannis, wants to use the 57,000 square foot site at One Love Lane to house up to 79 families, consolidating its 3 family shelters in Barnstable, Falmouth, and Bourne. The board members unanimously voted to appeal Dennis Building Commissioner Paul Fowler's earlier decision that the project is an exempt educational use under the state law known as the Dover Amendment. The primary reason is not education here. It's 100% housing, said Dennis Planning Board Chairman Paul McCormick, Jr. What is the Dover Amendment? The nonprofit wants the project to be allowed by right under the Dover Amendment because of the educational services planned. The Dover Amendment, initially adopted in 1950, mandates that proposed religious and educational land uses be given more favorable treatment than other proposed uses, such as residential, commercial, or industrial, under local zoning ordinances and bylaws, according to the Massachusetts Interlocal Insurance Association, and interlocal service of the Massachusetts Municipal Association. Housing Assistance has said educational services would include workshops, case management, and other programs focusing on financial management, family planning, mass health enrollment, searching for housing, parenting, and cooking skills. The shelter would focus on serving families, mostly single mothers with infants and children. The redevelopment of the South Dennis property is part of the agency's multi-year strategic plan to reduce housing insecurity across the region, according to the nonprofit. The agency has previously said its goal is to open the new South Dennis shelter by the end of the year. A vote to hire independent attorney. The Dennis Planning Board also voted Monday to hire its own special counsel, independent of town council, to represent the planning board in its appeal. Dennis Town Council Amy Questel told the board that the determination about whether the use falls under the Dover Amendment is made by the building commissioner. It is not made by the planning board. The use, right now, the planning board is not considering the use. That is not within your purview right now, said Questel. The meeting on Monday was part of an ongoing special review of the proposed project, according to the meeting agenda. Attorney Peter Freeman, representing Housing Assistance, said that organization had responded to criticisms about the project. For instance, he said, a security consultant has been hired to review the facility on an ongoing basis, and that Housing Assistance agrees to place a 6-foot fence around the property beside the front to improve safety for children in outdoor play areas. Residents' legal documentation questioned. Planning board members said they felt the board still did not have enough information and said that granting it more flexibility under the Dover Amendment prevents a more serious examination of the project. Board member Elizabeth Patterson said the town still did not know how many occupants would live in the facility, and that Harwich was not given its say on the project. The facility is located near the Harwich town line. There's the possibility of increased traffic with pedestrians, vehicles, and it's not just Dennis, it's Harwich as well, said Patterson. On Monday, members of the public voiced concerns about traffic, the impact on the school system, and whether the site would house individuals who are living in or entering the country illegally. I do feel we should be taking care of our own. Cape Cod, as you know, has a housing crisis, and these are the people I believe we should focus on taking care of, said Cheryl Ball. Emergency assistance funding from the state will be a source of support for the program, but it requires residents to be legally documented, said Freeman. It is really a need that is pervasive on the Cape, and this really speaks to the need, said Freeman. Project isn't a change of use. On April 2nd, the Cape Cod Commission sent a letter to Fowler, the building commissioner, saying that because both the former nursing home and proposed shelter are residential uses, the project does not constitute a change of use that would trigger a mandatory referral as a development of regional impact. The Planning Board also voted to appeal that decision. The Commission is aware of the Planning Board's vote on Monday evening. We will monitor how the Planning Board proceeds in furtherance of that vote and respond accordingly, said spokesperson Sarah Colvin for the Commission. What is the property's history? 1 Love Lane South Dennis LLC sold the 128-bed former nursing home to Housing Assistance Corporation for $4.3 million, according to a deed recorded with the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds on September 28th. South Dennis Healthcare was operated by Woburn-based Next Step Healthcare. And there's a picture on the Cape and Islands page today. The picture is entitled Job with a View. The picture is of a building dome and a construction worker working on it. The caption reads, Patrick O'Byrne of O'Byrne Painting and Contracting Incorporated in Wayland prepares the dome atop Eastham Town Hall on Tuesday before painting it. The color will be the same. The Town Hall is undergoing a restoration that includes replacing trim and cracked brick, a new roof on some sections, landscaping, and other restoration work. Keenan and Kenny Architects is the project architect. And now we'll go back to the front page of today's Cape Cod Times for a national news story. That story is entitled, Trump Trial Resumes with Final Arguments. Defense, prosecutors haven't proved guilt. By Aisha Bagchi, Bart Jansen, Kinsey Crowley, and David Jackson, USA Today. After a week off, jurors returned to a New York City courthouse to hear potentially pivotal closing arguments Tuesday about whether to convict or acquit former President Donald Trump in his historic criminal hush money trial. Trump has pleaded not guilty to 34 felony counts of falsifying business records in order to conceal or commit another crime. The records, including checks, vouchers, and invoices, all relate to payments to former Trump lawyer and fixer Michael Cohen in 2017. Prosecutors say the payments were reimbursing Cohen for $130,000 in hush money. In hush money to adult film actor Stormy Daniels in 2016. But the records were falsified to make the payments look like legal expenses. The arguments, also referred to as summations, allow the two sides to bring together the vast amount of testimony and evidence jurors have taken in over 5 weeks. Prosecutors may point to checks with Trump's signatures, excerpts from Trump's books and recordings introduced at trial in order to bolster the testimony of star witness Cohen. Cohen testified that Trump approved the payment to protect his electability and was in on the falsification scheme. Both sides planned to make their cases at length. Trump lawyer Todd Blanche estimated his side's closing argument would last about 2.5 hours. The defense closes first under New York law. Prosecutor Joshua Steinglass estimated 4 to 4.5 hours. 12 Manhattan residents will then be tasked with rendering the first criminal verdict on the conduct of a former president in United States history. The scene outside. A parade of SUVs delivered Trump's entourage to the courthouse on the sunny, warm morning. His children, Donald Jr., Eric, and Tiffany, plus daughter-in-law Lara Trump. There were low-key demonstrations outside, with about 40 to 60 people shuttling in and out of the small park across the street as proceedings began. Most were anti-Trump, but a contingent of more than 20 showed up to support the former president as he traveled to the courthouse. This has been Carolyn reading to you from the Cape Cod Times on Wednesday, May 29th. I hope you all have a great day.